All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Tim Bagonis. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at D-Tools. With me is Seth Enos, who's the Product Manager for System Integrator. And we're going to be covering what's new in System Integrator. We are now have officially released version 13. For those of you who may have not attended a webinar with us, it's very easy. We'll be presenting. You'll be able to see and follow what we're doing on the screen. We will be taking questions. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the presentation. But as we're going through what we're covering today, if you do have questions, please use the questions tab in your navigation for GoToMeeting, and we'll track that throughout the presentation. And in your there's a little arrow on the right that will enable you to hide those controls and give yourself a better view of the presentation. So what we'll cover today is we'll give a brief overview of what's new in System Integrator version 13. We just released it starting this week. And so for those of you that are on our software assurance plan, you will be notified when your update is ready through the software. And if you're a new customer that is joining us, it is available now. So we'll do a high-level run-through of some of the new enhancements, and then Seth's going to do a complete demonstration of the new features. And then, as I mentioned, we will do Q&A through the questions window, and we will be recording this webinar, so we'll make it available to all of you following the end of the webinar, and then you can share it with your team. So for those of you who may not already be users of our solution, System Integrator is a data-driven solution that really helps streamline the three main areas around your projects, and that is estimation and proposals, system design, very detailed documentation, and project management. All of this is really tied together through what we call a data-driven process, which means that product information, deep product specifications, drives the entire project process throughout System Integrator, from the very beginning of the customer engagement all the way through the install and service component, which means that product information that includes dimensions, inputs and outputs, engineering specifications, as well as pricing, labor time to install, descriptions and images. All of that information is used to drive projects within our system. That information that becomes part of the bill of materials is then available to generate very detailed engineering drawings and documentation in either Visio or AutoCAD. And then that same information, since we are tracking labor times and time to install, locations and systems and phases, all of that information can then be leveraged to schedule out install tasks, project management for your team, service orders, and then that all of that information ties together and then can be leveraged throughout your back office systems. So we have integrations with ERP systems, with accounting systems, and then we also have mobile accessibility from the top of the project through our Mobile Quote iOS application to generate scope and budget, through down to our mobile install web applications that enable you to manage your field technicians and assign tasks for complete project management. So what we're going to be showing today are some of the just some of the enhancements that we've made to System Integrator version 13. This is quite a robust upgrade. It features quite a number of productivity enhancements and new features and capabilities. Chief among them is the ability to define, create sell and manage service plans and service contracts as part of your client engagements. We've made some major improvements and additions to how we deal with data, chief among them being the availability of dealer-specific cost from our data library, which means that you can actually get your detailed specific pricing from select vendors within the library to really help you reduce the time needed to manage your costs within the DTools catalog. We work with hundreds of manufacturers, and we are making more and more of those brands with pricing available. I think we're going to have about 90+ brands available at launch, and more are being added. We have an integration with AVIQ on the data library side so that you can search the AVIQ product library and add those products to your DTools catalog as well. On the project side, there's a number of enhancements around allowances, being able to create allowance packages, which really help you get a very specific budgetary number and placeholders that you can utilize later on in the job, as well as a new way to deal with bundled cables, both on the sales side, the management side, as well as the drawing side. And a number of enhancements to mobile install, our change orders, and purchasing and item tracking, being able to utilize barcode scanners to add serial numbers, MAC addresses. And then we have a couple of additional features that will be rolling out at the end of October. Chief among them will be a new wire shape that enables you to do multi-terminations and pinouts, which really also helps with bundled cables, but also helps with more detailed drawings for HVAC and other components. And the ability to start utilizing a concept called AV as a service, which really enables you through an integration with the financing company, Great America, to be able to add service plans and service contracts to your project, get that financed for your clients, and gives your clients a very easy to manage monthly payment, which enables our users to then start adding more reoccurring revenue as part of their revenue mix. So there's a lot to cover. Those were some of the highlights, and there's many more enhancements. But what I want to do now is really just pass this over to Seth Enos, who's going to do a demonstration of some of these new capabilities.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone's having a good day. I'm going to jump right into this demo. Tim described these new features. So let's start off with some of the catalog changes. So we'll come out here. Well, I guess I'll just start by going to manage your products. And we can first talk about some of the bigger stuff that we added out here. So when you go to add from your library here, you have now access to AVIQ data. As Tim mentioned, this is the Infocommon CDS standard data that you can now choose products to download. I'll just click something here and see what lists. Very much just like our library, but it's their own catalog. They may have products that we don't have yet, so you're able to download from here, giving you an easier way to build your catalog. Tim mentioned vendor pricing, so let me show that off here. So you'll see up here, you'll see vendor partners. When you click the connect button here, it's going to show all of the partners that we currently have. Over in the left here, you're going to see a list of the names of the vendors, and then on the right here, you'll see a list of their brands. Sometimes it's one-to-one, sometimes it'll be one-to-many. Let's see if I can find one in here that has multiple. I'm just clicking through here as I'm talking, so you can see that different logos load. There we go. Middle Atlantic here has a few different brands here. And the concept here is that you're going to be able to get your cost based on your dealer level with these vendors. So you can see I'm approved for this one. I just have, sample account here set up, but you'll notice that there's a pricing tier here listed. I think I have another one down here, and you'll notice this one says legacy dealer, if I were to expand that. Every one of these vendor partners is going to have a different naming convention. I haven't seen bronze, silver, gold yet, but maybe one of them has that. Some will be dealer, some will be super excellent dealer. Anyways, we're just going to use the names that they use, and that's what you'll see here. But the whole thing about this is getting connected with them. So if you're not already signed up with these vendors as a dealer, if they have a link to sign up, you'll see that this will open up here, and it'll take you to a web page to allow you to start that conversation with, in this case, Adlona, to try to onboard yourself as a dealer for them. When you do want to connect with them, say you've already signed up, you're going to get an account number from them, and then you'll have your billing zip code. And that's what it takes here. When you click connect, enter an account number and your billing zip code, they'll get a notification if something's wrong. If it's correct, you will be approved. And then as you download products from these vendors, or I should say like the brands over here, or the manufacturers from these vendors, your costs will come down. Then, of course, you'll be able to use price rules to set your price, or however you do it, set a margin across it. But you'll be able to have your costs automatically update. And let's see, if I select this, for instance, now you may have already downloaded some products and have them in your catalog that you've been using before we had this feature. So you can always click this to find all of the products. I think I've got 2 in here right now that I downloaded earlier. But you can see that here's the partner costs for these items, and those will transfer down. I'll go ahead and do that, hit update. And those are now set in my catalog. So this is very nice. You can always update your pricing at any time for any of these vendors. You can also set up a schedule. So here's your schedule price updates option. Very similar to what we did for PSA. If any of you are familiar with using this, you get to schedule the automatic updates when you want them. Another enhancement we made here also to the PSA options for price updates is the ability to select multiple price types. We used to have you select one price type, but you may want your cost to go to all 3 of your price types, or all 20 of your, oh wait, no, we only have 12, all 12 of your price types. And you can do that now, either in PSA or here. And then down here, you'll get to decide what happens when the cost changes, because that's what's happening when you do a price update. Your cost is coming down. Do you want to maintain your margin and markup and recalculate your price, or maintain the price and recalculate your margin and markup? Those are the rules we have throughout the software, but we've added them here as well, also out here to the PSA data. So there's that. Let me go ahead and close out of this. We'll go back here. Take a look at a product. Actually, I should go to one of these. Let me refresh here. Let's go to this coastal source, since this came down with its price. What you'll notice, we added a little column here. This is partner set cost. As soon as you change this, this checkbox goes away. You have no control over that checkbox other than modifying this. We're just letting you know that as of right now, that's a partner set cost. If you change this to 100, tab out of there, it's no longer a partner set cost. So I wanted to just show you that while I was here. Also, while I'm here, for features that I'm coming up that I'm about to talk about, I want to show 2 new checkboxes here. Include in service plan. We'll be getting to service plans shortly. So this, I'll mention this again later when we're talking about service plans. There's also this option here to publish to mobile install. So while we're here, let's talk about that. If you have that option checked for an item, they will publish out to our mobile install interface for use for site items. There's a button right up here that says publish site items. So any of your products or labor items that you have that checkbox checked for, when you click this option here, it'll pull up the list, and you can publish these out to your mobile install interface. And that will allow, rather than your technicians manually entering parts out there, they can add actual items from your catalog that have the price, that go up there with the price and whether or not it's taxable. You can also choose which price type you want to publish. Again, if you've got more than 1, up to 12, you can decide which price type you want to put out there for these products in the field. Now, we did limit you to 5,000 items out in mobile install. We thought that would be pretty sufficient for site items, mind you. These are the ones your technicians are adding in the field on either tasks or service orders. It's what might be on the truck, or what is on the truck, let's put it that way. Hopefully you don't have 5,000 different items on your vehicles. This should be a pretty clean list of what they could be using in the field, common items. So know that that's there, and that's one of those checkbox options there. So while we're here, let's just get that right out of the way. In mobile install, let's just show it. We'll take you here. Here is a task. In this case, it could be a service order as well. When you go to site items, there's the same buttons we've had, add product and add labor. But prior to this, you didn't have this option, this add from catalog. And so that's what's going to allow you to add a product from your catalog versus them manually entering this and possibly having to call you for the price. If they don't know what this item they're using on this task or service order is supposed to cost, they'll probably have to call in for that. But now, if you add from catalog, we list the products that you've published out here, and you can choose one of these to add to the task or service order, hopefully saving you guys some time. And while I've got this web page up, because I don't intend to come back here, I'm just going to come over here. Documentation is published for V13. You guys hopefully know where this is, how to get there. support.d-tools.com. And release notes, just so you know, it's always here under installing. We've got our release notes. So this will cover what we're covering today. And after this, you'll get an email with the video. I'm also going to put the video right on this page, just so you know, just out there on the release notes to show what's new. Okay. We also added an IP address to field. We only had one IP address before, but two MAC addresses. So now we have two IP addresses as well. I'll try to remember to show that later when we're inside of a project. That's a project-specific one. But I want to talk about the other major changes we did to packages. So packages still exist in SI, and they're now just 3 different types of them. You've got your standard package still, which that's what these are, which is I always call it like a bucket for products. You put the products in there, and the price of the package is determined by the products. We can still do that. What we added out here, as you'll see, there's a new drop down. We kind of broke our package model a little, but still use the concept to create allowances and then bundled cables here that I'll talk about. So we can talk about allowances first. An allowance is it's just that. It's an allowance that you can create. It's just money. And you can add these to projects. It might, a lot of our users like to sell this way. Through talking with them, they want to just put like a wiring allowance for a location, or a TV allowance, for instance, for each location. We're not sure what we're going to hit yet, but we want to put X amount of dollars in here, get the client to sign off on it, and then you'll choose the real products later. Once the product's approved, those will still go on a change order, but they'll likely at that point be an internal change order because you've already locked down your price with this allowance. So not too much has changed here, really. We did change package groups to categories just to be more consistent, just a name change. But check out the price tab here. So that's the real big difference here. Normally packages, the price just calculates from the items that are added. In this case, you're going to set the price here. You can do standard, like we always have here, but also calculated. In our last release, V12, we introduced calculated products and calculated labor items. We just carried that concept over here if you want to calculate an allowance. So really, you're going to set a price on this, and you're going to set labor on this, and potentially hours if you want to on this, to charge how much you think that this should take. And this is what I want to put in my quote. And then once I know the real items, those can be added to the items tab here, and it won't affect the price of your project. It's just going to be added here with no price. You'll be able to use those on your drawings. You'll be able to use them on your tasks to install the project. But there's really going to be no price coming from those. They are all part of this allowance. And I'll show you a demonstration of that in a little bit, of adding a product and being prompted to add it to an existing allowance. The other option here, as you can see, is use cost from items. Now you can estimate a cost if you want to. Uncheck this box. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. Again, an allowance is kind of, hey, I want to charge this much and then I'm going to add the real items later. You might just want to wait on that and let the software, as you add the items inside of an approved project, just take the cost from the actual items and have that apply here. So that's what one looks like. Now, once you create these, just like with products and labor items, you won't get to choose between standard or calculated. It's only on the initial creation. Once you've chosen one of these and saved it, that's it. So likely you won't be adding any items at this point. I mean, you could potentially, if there's certain items you know that you're going to have, but you're waiting on one final item. Up to you. It might be just blank and it's just an allowance, essentially placeholder that you can add to a project. I have one here for display devices. I'll just pull up here, a little description. It'll contain all this stuff. Set a price on this. Set 3 hours of the finish phase. You'll notice these are grayed out since this is already created. Just a tip for you, if you ever mess up and you want to change your mind, you want this, but you also want it to be calculated, not this, just clone it out here and you'll be able to reset that on the new item. Looks like I failed to come back and rename this bundled cable, but this is a bundled cable here. Let me open it up and show you what that is. So bundled cables just kind of came as just an offshoot of when we were breaking our model for allowances, the package model, I should say, to create allowances. We said, well, we could probably do something else here too. And we put in a bundled cable. Now, if you're creating your own bundled cable, you'll still use the old package model because you've got the individual wires that you're essentially bundling yourself as you do your runs. That's how it's always worked here. The problem we always had is, well, what about the pre-bundled cable that we're buying? How do we accurately charge that and draw with that? So there's been all kinds of workarounds, adding dummy items and things like that. But we created this. It probably should have a better name. Bundled cable. Let me just do that right now. Bundled cable 1. This has 2 Cat5 and 2 RG6 in it. That's what I set this for. So the price here is by the foot or the meter. So there will be a wire length associated with this, just like bulk wire. And you're going to set a price here for the pre-bundled cable. How much does it cost you per foot? How much do you want to charge per foot? How much labor do you want to charge per foot or meter? Based on your Windows settings. And then you can add the items here. Now, these items can be items with pricing in your catalog, but when they get added here, no pricing is considered. They are just used at this point for installation reports, drawings, and we do have a new functionality for our finish shape that is associated with this bundled cable feature when you drag over bundled cable. I'll show that in just a second. So these also could just be wires you've created, generic wires that represent a Cat5 or RG6 that don't have pricing in your catalog. It's up to you. But the point is, anything you add to this does not affect the price. All the pricing is coming straight from this tab here. And that way you can accurately purchase, use bundled cable, purchase it, and even draw effectively in our software. So I'll go ahead and save that bundled cable. And since we're here talking about that, let's go do this. Here's my project editor. I'm going to take this down a little bit so y'all can see. And I am going to slowly here pull up Visio. I'm not used to working on one screen, to be honest. It's terrible. It's barbaric. Okay, so let me just move this over slightly. I'm going to go to my package explorer here. And here's a bundled cable. So I can drag it into the project. So I should probably be proper and pick something for this. And we'll add this to the project just so you can see it here. And let me let that close. There's a little icon for it. There's the bundled cable name. All packages now display like this. They used to be a little bit different. It had like a bar. We've changed that. There's now a column called package name. The items then list the manufacturer model over here. That's just something some of you may have noticed there as you were looking. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull this over to this drawing page and show you the new feature here. So this is what you're seeing. This little call out here only appears on bundled cables. So it's the individual wires that were actually dropped on the page. These ones here, you can see the little icons for those. Those are the ones you're actually making your connection with. This is just a reference that this is part of a bundle, and that lists the component ID for the bundled cable. This can be moved around to clean up your drawings, and the little leader line will just snap to different places along the line as you move it. So that's the little enhancement we made here. And as Tim mentioned, we have a late October update already in the works, even though we just released this one. We're going to add a little more functionality here to be able to show legends for pinouts. So if it's a wire that even a 16.4, and I want to show where these 4 wires are actually going on the screw down panel or the pinout for that, we will have a shape for that. Unfortunately, I cannot demo that today. We've turned off all that functionality while we clean that up and work on it for our October update. But v13 is shipping with this functionality here for bundled cable. So go ahead and minimize that. And well, we're here. Here's the project editor. Let's talk about some changes that we added here. We added 4 more project custom fields for you. I'll open this up so we can go to custom fields within a project here. And if I scroll down here, they're drop-down lists. So I don't have these set up now, but we'll go ahead and manage custom fields. So you can see there is a new section here. There's 4 new fields that we added for you, and they are called list. And that allows you to, here you're just giving it a name, but here you manage your own customized drop-down list that you'll be able to use for your custom fields for projects. And there's move up and move down buttons that you can create these and get them in the order you want. And that way you don't have to worry about misspellings, at least in these fields. Someone can use a drop down and select the proper value for whatever you decide to define these for. So that was an added field that we put in there, or added 4 fields, I should say. A little subtle one here we added is a client PO number. So a lot of you speak in those terms. I've heard it for many years. It's like, okay, well, we don't move forward on a project till we get a purchase order from our client. When we think of purchase orders inside of SI, we're thinking of buying products. You guys are getting the products to install it, but you're selling these projects and you get a customer PO number, right? In that case, we call them clients. So a client PO number, it's just a field. You can enter that in here. When you're approving a project, enter the client PO number and then approve the project. So this will also carry over to QuickBooks Estimates now. There's already a field that exists over there, so we added this here, and that will transfer over to your QuickBooks Estimates for any of you QuickBooks users out there. And I will talk about some more QuickBooks enhancements shortly. So let's see here. There's also the ability to choose what columns you see when adding accessories. It used to be rigid when you're adding a product with accessories. So let me, something I know is accessorized here. I'm just going to drop this in. I'll get rid of it in a second. But here you can see that there's a bunch of columns now. We added more columns out here. And this is something that you can set a column chooser where you can uncheck what you don't want to see and show what you do want to see, including 14 of the custom fields here for the product. So it may help you when you're finding accessories to add. We had the use case come up where custom fields being used to differentiate the accessories between when this item is being added to a residential job and when it's being added to a commercial job. There's a different set of accessories. So you'll now be able to see that in this view. And again, just set the column chooser to whatever you want. It's a preference and it will save on your machine. So that's something that we added there. Let me just go here. Let's take a look at what else is here. Okay, so layouts. We've always had this layouts tab here, or at least as long as I can remember, with different options here. These are your preset ones, and you can create custom ones. That's the real beauty of this is you take a preset one like pricing, and then you see what columns you want. These maybe you don't need to see up front, so you move those out of there or remove them altogether by doing a quick save as, right? So you've always had the ability to customize this view. Where you didn't have that opportunity is when you go to any of these summary views. And there aren't too many fields that we show here. I mean, there's a handful of them that make sense in here, but we did give you now, let's go to say location summary here. Let me expand this out. I just like to see all the locations here. But notice the layouts tab did not go away this time. We just have an all or a custom though. It's going to show you everything, or you're going to be able to customize this. And again, the beauty of that is get rid of the columns you don't want to see. Put them in the order you want them to see them in. Fit them, and even shrink them down even more if you want to. So it's a nice consistent view for you, and it will remember that view when you persist, or it will persist between projects is what I was saying there if you have that setting set. So you are able to create custom layouts there. Speaking of other layouts here, this one, you can now increase or decrease your quantities out here as needed. It's not as simple as just typing in a number here, as many of you know. When we're, say, looking at this product here, there's 35 of them in the project, but those could be in 35 different locations. They could be parts of different systems. Heck, they could be even different pricing, or the labor could be different on them in certain locations. So it's not as clean as, oh, it's just a number in a spreadsheet. Let me just change it. Everything's the same. Our software is a little more complex than that with our structure. So what we gave you here is the ability to increase or decrease. So if you do want to add more of something, let's just find something interesting here. These speakers. Click that. This is just our clone form, but we modified it a little bit for this feature. What we did is unchecked this to keep them in the same location, and added this little feature down here where you can select the quantity for each individual location should you choose to do that. So you're increasing this, and you know you want to add 2 here. You can do that. Check the next one and add what you want there, and then go ahead and hit OK. So you don't have to leave this view to do that. You can also, if you're, decreasing or deleting, we're still going to prompt you which one, because again, locations, where are these? Which ones are being removed? Component IDs, that might matter. You might want to see if it's not been installed yet. We're removing the ones that haven't been installed. So we still have to prompt you for a little bit, but at least you do get to change those quantities there for those of you that happen to use this view. Versus this one where you're seeing everything out here at one time. So okay, let's keep going here. QuickBooks changes real quickly since we talked about them in here. Let's go here, QuickBooks Settings. I just want to point this out to you on your estimates form here. You can map the other one and the other 2 field. Other 1 and other 2 are what they are called in QuickBooks, okay? Those are their fields. I'll show them to you in just a second. You may not even know they exist, but these exist, other 1 and other 2, at the line item level in estimate, so the product level that you're putting over there. So it's just another column you can show. And so we gave you 4 options here that you can map to. Location, system, phase, or your change order number. For those of you that are pushing change orders, that might be a nice thing to see per line item. Help you stay a little more organized over there, and be a little less confusing on larger change orders for sure. If you tend to, or maybe start using these other 1 and other 2 fields. And where those exist very quickly, I've got QuickBooks open here. On an estimate here, if you're formatting, customize your data layout for your estimate here, on the columns, you'll see that there's an other 1 and other 2. You'll want to turn those on and decide if you want to print those. And those, like I said, can map directly from our software. So very nice. And that will appear, like I mentioned, per line item. It'll be just another column out here. The other thing that we did, notice there was a PO number. I mentioned that earlier, that we put in the client PO number. That's where it will transfer here. And this is your representative list over here for sales reps that you set up in QuickBooks. This is not looking at SI, this is looking at QuickBooks. So we will do that as well over in our software. To show that, I'm gonna have to go here. I can't do that from within that one project, so give me 1 second. Just gonna open this one up. And QuickBooks, create, selected, just 1 item, but I'm just pulling up the estimate form to show this. Okay, I haven't allowed access yet, I don't think. Lovely. Maybe I won't show that, but the QuickBooks form, because I didn't set that up, sorry. It just has a drop-down field for you for the sales rep, and then the client PO number, but we changed it to customer PO number because that's what they're going to call it in QuickBooks. So I'll go revisit that for my next webinar. Not important really. Those are just 2 drop downs that will transfer over. You should know about. I don't think you need to see it on the screen to get the concept. Okay, let's see. You know what? I don't want to check this in. There's a reason. We're going to do some let's do change order improvements. There's quite a few of these actually, including one that has to do with allowances, but we also added 2 other cool features that I'll demonstrate that right now. So in order to do that, we'll mark this as approved. Nothing changed here. Same thing. Revision gets created. We mark it as approved. All the items get approved within this project. There it is. Okay. Where the changes are going to take place is when you actually go to execute your change orders. So let me pop this one open here and make a change. So the first thing I want to do is find something to delete. This guy right here. Actually, you know what we can do? We'll maybe delete these. Okay, I'm going to delete these too. So little bigger form than it used to be. So this is what the form used to say up here. We added this part down here. So the request came in a while back about being able to keep the accessories for the parent item in the project. We've already installed this back stuff. We're just taking out the main one. But as anyone who's been using our software for a while knows, with accessories, it's an all or nothing with us. If you take out the parent product, those accessories are going. And that's how our model's always been. Well, we broke that here. And in this case, you have the option to change this to decide to keep whichever one of these accessories you would like to in the project. They can't be accessories if the parent item ends up getting removed on an approved change order. If that goes, these become regular items, and that's kind of what it says here. Select approved accessories to convert to items. So they won't be accessories anymore because the parent will go if the change order gets approved. But anyways, it's a nice little feature that allows you to do that because sometimes the accessories are already installed. It's wires that were run, it's stuff that's there, but we're just taking out the main item. They no longer want that, but hey, we already did this work. We're not giving you that money back. So just we'll treat them here as a single product. So I'm just going to continue on with this. Let's create a pending change order. You guys know this prompt, hopefully. Change order 1, we'll say, yeah, we'll save it. And there they are, and they're marked for deletion here. So other things that another new feature is a change order placeholder. So that's removing something here, but you don't want the price of the project to change. It could happen, say, on an internal change order. You're taking some stuff out, but it's like, okay, we really didn't use all of this, but so I don't need to be in the project. We need to remove this. So we had that request, the ability to be able to remove stuff on generally an internal change order. I don't think you'd want to do this on an external change order where you are charging the client but still maintaining the price. But you do have that option. I'm sure somebody will find a use case for that. But if you were to say take something out of here, like we'll just delete this out. Yeah, we want to delete this. I'm going to put it on a new change order and mark it internal. It's an internal change and select those. So now these are marked for deletion. Let me go ahead and approve the change order. So go here, right here, change order 2, mark as approved. Let's save the project. Sure. And so this looks similar to the form before. It's going to create a revision, and there's your revision information. This is the new option to maintain the cost and price of the deleted items in a placeholder item. And when you do that, you could come here and modify this if needed. Now, keep in mind, unchecking any of these or any row or any of these checkboxes here where they are maintaining the product cost and price and maintain the labor cost and price, you will have a price change. It'll change somewhat, but you could put some of these in there. But the point of this is on internal change order. We don't want the price of the project to change. It's what we agreed to. I'm sure we'll be spending this money somewhere. Just keep my project price the same. It creates a placeholder, and it's a package essentially. It's like our third new package we introduced into this version. It's just this is the only way you can create these. These aren't manual, and they are only intended to hold pricing. They do not hold the items. Items are gone. You are getting rid of these, but you wanted to maintain the price. So I'll show you what one looks like. We'll mark this as approved and close out of my change order form there, and you'll see this has a little icon that looks like that, and it's change order 2 placeholder since I didn't rename it. You open this up, and everything's grayed out essentially here, and there's your pricing. It's locked in, it's grayed out. You're not going to be able to edit this at this point. It was there just to make sure the price of your project doesn't change. A lot of you expressed interest in being able to do that, so we worked that out with a third hybrid package called a change order placeholder. Next option will be when you're adding items to a change order. If you have an allowance in the project, in this case I do, and it is approved. It was part of this project. Let me just show it to you. It's down somewhere. I think maybe. I thought I had one in here. Maybe I didn't add it to this, so let me go ahead and close this. We'll save this. I'll do it on another project. Bear with me. I thought I had that in there. Sorry, folks. In fact, what I'll do for y'all, let's don't save this one. And we will open this back up here and add an allowance here. I'm just going to stick it in storage because I don't have time and I don't want to waste your time on something like this. So let me put my display device allowance in this job. Save the job. Don't check it in. We'll approve it. Okay, so now I have an approved project that has an approved allowance in it. Let me add something to this. So we'll go here again. Now we're going to go ahead and flesh this out here and say we're going to put that TV in here. That was my display device allowance. I go ahead and add this to this project. These are the accessories, so let's go ahead and add those. No pending change orders exist. Of course, we're going to have to do that. This is an internal change. Would you like to add these 3 items to an approved allowance? So you're going to see this prompt. You could always manually go do this. Allowances can be opened. If you have the foresight to go down to the existing allowance, open it up, go to the items tab, and add to it, more power to you. But we are going to prompt you here. It's like, hey, you may not know that. There's an approved allowance here. And if you say yes, this will pull up. It'll show you all of your allowances in the project, and you can filter here to what's within budget and what's over budget. I only have the one allowance here, so I'm going to choose it, but up here you'll see a summary of what you've chosen in the list. We'll go ahead and add this. Now, this is not real yet. You'll notice that they're here, but they're still pending. That's a pending change order. So once I approve it, those will be added to the project. Price will not change of the project. We're locked in at that allowance price. These items will get added, but what we will do is show you a comparison. That's why we had the budget, over budget and under budget options. So let me just approve this change order real quick. Mark is approved. Yup. Okay. Mark is approved. And done. So now, let's get down here to the bottom here. So now those are real items here within this placeholder device. And again, these items, they can be ordered. They can be added to tasks. They can be added to drawings. They're real now. But the price of the product didn't change. What did happen is the price here will compare. Well, here's the items. There they are. And as you're looking here, you'll be able to view the balance here of what you quoted out there. So there's the allowance product price. There's from the items, how much it was. There's my balance here. And there's my balance on hours. So that's what you're looking at here. You'll be able to compare those. And you are able to go over on that too. The price isn't going to change. You can add $10,000 to this if you really wanted to, and the price still stays whatever the price of the allowance was when it was added to the project. So let's go ahead and save and close that. So that's an exciting new feature there, I think. So let's go ahead and close this. You know what? I don't want to save it. All right, purchase order changes. Let's get through those. So let's sneak over here to purchase orders. So we added tracking numbers to purchase orders. This is one I have created here. There's a tracking number field here if it's for the entire purchase order. And then, of course, once you enter it here, you can say assign it to all the products. That's assuming everything's coming in the same shipment. If that's not the case, you are able to manually enter tracking numbers here or select. Say, let me get out of a field that's selectable. So these 3 have a particular tracking number. These 2 will have another one. We changed this to update items. You can either tax if you are using use tax on this. Here's the tracking number. That's what I was here to show you, where you could put in a tracking number for this and update those items, and that information will transfer back over to the project the next time you open it. This also works out with our vendor portal. If you are using that and you publish this out there, there are new fields out there for the vendor to fill in the tracking number, either for the entire purchase order or just the items if they are different. So that was an improvement we made out here for this. One thing you guys may not have noticed, this used to say products. It says items now. Now, why does it say items? Well, when we were breaking our package model, we realized, well, we've got to be, packages used to not be able to add here. They were just buckets for parts. The parts were added here to be purchased. Well, a bundled cable needs to be purchased. That's that pre-bundled cable. So while we were doing that, let's just put it that way. You can add bundled cable here. The other thing that we decided to do is we've had the request is you are now able to add labor line items to a purchase order. Some of you have come up with that use case for outside contractors you're using that you want to be able to get a PO out for labor. You can do that now. Labor items are available when you are adding from the project or from the catalog, as you'll see here. Those are what can be added now. So that's a pretty big change. Sure, we'll save this. Now, the other thing we did here is regarding item receipts. So let's go ahead and open this up. For item receipts, this used to be a pretty simplistic form here where we didn't even tell you what project it was these products were associated with, because as you guys know, a purchase order could have multiple projects on it. You're buying from a vendor and you've got 3 open products and you want to buy the gear from that vendor for all 3 of them. Well, we now prominently show you the project, which happens to be the client name, project name, like we usually do. We renamed these to make them a little clearer for you. This is what was ordered, previously received items, should you be creating a new one of these, and what you're receiving now. So I'm editing this existing one. We also added the ability to add serial numbers and MAC addresses, and we made the interface easy for you to be able to use a scanner. So when you are entering an item here, so let's say I'm not sure what this is, but let's say I'm getting 3 of these today, receiving those. You can click this, edit serial numbers and MAC addresses, and it will pull up this and it will list 3 because that's all we're receiving. And there's a serial number, MAC address 1, MAC address 2 field here. If you're only doing one of those, disable this to make your tabbing easier. But this is where you can get focus in here, scan, tab, and it will take you through these. And then this information will transfer back into a project. So try to make this easier for you to we'll cancel out of that. I added some here just so you know. There's some sitting out here, so we'll see them. And in addition to that, we also added a new report out here for you. Let's go ahead and save this. Item receipt labels. So this still prints on the Avery 5263. That's the model number. That's what all of our label reports, besides wire labels in our software, print on. It's a mailing label sheet, 10 per sheet. Let me run this. And this will run, and you can see the serial number and the MAC address show up on this, and these can be slapped on the box at the time of receiving this. You could do that. Then what happens later, once these have been received and you've got this information, that information does need to go back into the project at some point. And this isn't new. We've always done this. It's just we have more fields now. So if I go open this, it's going to warn me that purchase orders have been updated. Would you like to update this? This isn't new, but there's a lot more fields here, and I'll show you them. One thing we added here is this. So by default, if I expand this here, you'll notice this item here. We're automatically auto-assigning serial numbers and MAC address. That's just the default. So it'll just randomly pick. I said there's 3 of these that we received. It'll just pick which ones it assigns these to. You may not like that. You may want to assign these because we're only doing certain locations, or we're doing these locations first. Those are where this is going. So if you uncheck this box, you can manually assign these. So there's all the information that was scanned in or entered in from the receipt, and here's my items. And again, in this case, they're all in the server room. So if there were different locations here, you would see that. But we're just showing you for this item, these are the 3 we're receiving. Here's all your locations, component ID, and systems these are in. And you could just pop that one there, and I want this one to be there, so forth. Oh yeah, I got to do one more. And you're going here. Hit OK. And then hit next. And then here you can see these are the fields already. Tracking number. These are all the new ones that we added out here, and those can update right here within the project. So those are the purchase order enhancement improvements. Hopefully you guys like those. And last but not least, let's talk about the big one, service plans. So check in this project real quick. You'll notice there is a service plans tab down here. I do have one existing for this project for my demo here. It's also here under service, the service plans. You'll notice we listed service orders under here as well. That's also under scheduling still. But the concept here too is that you can, once you approve a service plan, you can associate service orders to it. And talk more about that in a second, but let's go ahead and take a look at this. So its interface looks hopefully fairly familiar to you for a lot of our other interfaces here. There's a lot to service plans here, and you can set these up. Of course, you can create templates for these. You're probably going to want to have different templates, good, better, best offers, or different style jobs, commercial versus residential, educational versus this. You can always create a new one too, so you're always welcome to do that. Some settings out here to talk about. There's a number format, of course. These will get numbered. Just left mine pulling client initial or name here. So here are the two major parts of the service plan, and I'll show you these here, and then we'll go into one. Items. This is where all of the money comes from on a service plan. It's the only place money comes from. Are the items that you're selling them? What are you offering? And you build this list. Now we ship our new installs with some samples, but ultimately you're just going to clear our samples anyways, and you're going to put your own items in here with your pricing. So let me just show you the fields here. You give it a name, a description, if you want to. The frequency, how often are they going to be billed for this? Is it a one-time, like a startup fee? Is it monthly, quarterly, or annually? And set a price here. Or you can calculate the price if you want to. That's up to you. So the point is, get a price on these with a frequency. I have one set here for annually, you can see, and then the rest are monthly. That's the items. Then there's features. This is more for reporting, but this is where you can just build a list of what you could add to a service plan. Like, okay, here's what you're getting as part of your report. It's a bullet point list, and really sell this to them of why they should get this service plan. So again, you guys will build your own list here, and these are simple. It's just a name and a description for reporting purposes. So let's look at a service plan here. This is what they look like. There's a client. You do have to pick a client. You don't have to pick a project. You can, but you don't have to. It's totally up to you if you want to associate it with a project. Some of you may not be doing that. It may be for a client that you just got, or a client that you built the project prior to using SI. We're okay with that. It can just be a client. Assigning it to a project does give you a little more functionality. I'll show it to you in a second. You do have to name these. Descriptions optional if you want to. These do have set statuses. They're open, or they're accepted or rejected. And we do have the same process like for projects of accepting and rejecting these. It's on this tools menu here. Now, notice my plan length here is grayed out, but there is a years and a months field. The reason they're grayed out for me is because I've chosen month to month. So that way you're not setting an end date on this. You can still set a start date if you wanted to, but everything else grays out here. There is no auto renew. This is just ongoing until the client cancels. We heard that was a big preference for a lot of users. If you did want to set a hard date on this, you can. And you can set start and end dates, choose whether or not this will auto renew, up to you. But I think this is probably going to be the more popular option. Just keep paying me till you don't. So we'll see what you guys do with this. But that was a big request to have this. There's an allowable hours field. It's completely optional, but these can be used for comparison against the service orders that you'll end up eventually, once this gets approved, associating with this. And you might say, okay, for this service plan, we'll offer you, 24 hours annually. And then you'll be able to compare what the actual hours were from your service orders that are associated with this with what you offered here. Nothing changes as far as money goes. This is just saying, okay, that's what we'll allow. The money, like I said, is going to come from the service plan items that you choose to add here. What do you want to charge your clients? So there's a contacts and an addresses tab, pretty standard, right? Here's the items that I've added here, and what you can see is, their name, their description, the frequency. I just mixed these up for the example to have an annual one and a monthly one. You'll see your totals down here. You can choose whether or not you're taxing these, and then you can set a tax to this. I've chosen not to put the tax option on these. That's gonna be the price. But the reporting will reflect whether or not tax is included, and you can choose whether you want tax to display on the report or not, and just have it say plus applicable taxes. And we'll get to the report in a second. So those are your service plan items. Now, there's also this project items tab. Now, again, no money's coming from the project items, but this will only be lit up if, of course, you've associated it with a project. And what this will give you to do, if you want to, let's say you're offering an extended warranty on certain products. That's what this particular plan I want to sell is. You can select those products from the project and add those here, so they will show up on a report. Like, these are the parts that are covered, or the equipment that is covered in this service plan. And it's up to you. You may choose to do that, or you may not have anything to do with that. But we'll add some here just so we see something today. I don't know exactly what these are. Hopefully they're good looking on the report. I don't know. I'll add those. There we go. Just so there's something there. Now, the other thing these can do, though, as I said, that no money comes from them, that is unless you want to, on this particular job, double click this to edit it, calculate instead of setting it. And when you are calculating your price here, this is pretty standard for all of our other calculated items in the software. Choose your total field, or I'm sorry, your source field here. What operation you want to use here, your value. The big difference here is you can do it for just the items on the service plan, those product items we were just talking about. These items are what I want to calculate my warranty off of, or you can do it off of all product items. So your choice. That's where they could come into play there. They could be used to factor in a price, should you choose to do that. Now, the rest of this stuff is reporting. I talked with you about features already. You saw this. This will be a bullet point list you'll see on the report. But we gave you two RTF options. That's rich text files, or rich text format, to create an introduction for yourself, if you'd like to, and your terms and conditions. These are just different sections on the report. The introduction obviously being in the front, and the terms coming later in the report. So you do have two, again, opens in WordPad. You're able to modify this as needed. Just close out of that. And you'll be able to reuse these. You can export and import these, or again, you build one service plan and then you create a template off of it on the Home tab and reuse it over and over again. But again, you can always, nice to have these export and import out to your server so everyone can use them. Yeah, and anyways, it's just text that you'll add, and all of the sections on this report can be turned off. So if you don't want to see an introduction, or if I have project items that I'm using for pricing, but I don't want to show them, you can turn off that. So let me show you, without going any further, the report itself. So there is a service plan report. Of course, in our order report designer, you could create your own custom ones. The cool thing about this is we have parameters here, and show introduction section, show feature section, show details section. Now here's some pricing options here. Show price with tax in the details section, and show price with tax in the approval section. Your choice. If you are taxing these and you want to see it, great, add those. But again, most of this stuff is about turning off sections. So parameters, or we'll just run it as is. Give us a sec to generate here. Let me expand this. So this is basically, who it's between. There's my introduction section with my text. These are the features, the bullet point list I mentioned that are going to show you. Here's the plan features. Plan details comes down here. This is where the pricing shows. This is what they'll get. Keep going. Here's the product items. I picked two of the same ones here. So the following equipment is covered by this agreement. Again, you can turn off that section if you want. There's my terms. And then just a quick summary here at the end of what they can expect to be billed monthly and annually in this case, because I have a mixed frequency there. So that's the stock report that will go with service plans. We also added the feature to be able to put some of the information, the features and the service plan items, the pricing, at the end of your proposals or your line item detail or your quote reports. So let me demonstrate that. To do that, I'm going to have to leave this interface, go back to projects, but let me just show you here. There's the approval stuff here. These can also be locked There are workflow rules associated with these. I'll try to remember to show those as soon as I'm done with the report. And then we are just about done, folks. We can open it up for Q&A. So let's go back here. This is the project here that has the service plan associated with it. So what you have now is when you go to reports, let's say I'm going to run a client report, a proposal with images by location. If there are service plans associated with this, now keep in mind there could be multiple ones out there too. You have to choose which service plan you'd like to include on the report. Let's select it. There it is, the only one I have that I was showing you, and we'll run this. And this will display the service plan information will display at the end after the project summary section. So here we go. This is just a big old report. Let's keep scrolling through it. Okay, there's the project summary section that you're all used to, and then service plan. So we list first up front the items, then the features, and then, as you can see here, the signature lines. So those are what we added out here. Now, if you don't want to see the features here, you could turn that off via a report setting, and you could also choose the tax. Are we showing this price with tax, or are we not showing it with tax? And there will be appropriate text here if you are or not. And where those reside, because this is a standard report pulling in that information, you will see down here on service plan, those are your options. You know, display auto renew information, yes or no, and then inclusive of tax here, and do you want to see the features? So those are your settings there. Let's just round this out real quickly here. I did mention the workflow rules. While I'm here, I'll just also mention that snippets are here now, so you don't have to go into a field to manage these. You just do it right from here. There's all your snippets, and those are used, as you know, all throughout the software. Little name change here. There's still phases, but we put labor rates for our new users that don't know that's where you go to set up your labor, when it used to just say phases. So little subtle change there. Nothing else changed with phases. Don't worry. Just slight name change. And then workflow rules here. So one thing that we did, well, here's the service plan one. Let's just start with that. So service plans have the rules here because they can be locked and unlocked too if you don't want them to go out. But it pretty much shows you here your criteria, or these are expires in or auto renews in X amount of days. And that depends, like when you're, you know, if there's a reminder on those, that's, sorry, I had to set that to reminder. Expires in X amount of days or auto renew. That's for the ones that have set end dates and all that. You can be reminded of that. Or if one's going to auto renew, great, you might want to know that if you're not doing the month to month. So that's been added here. But we also added a nice new feature out here. Well, these are grayed out in this case, but I want to show you the new ones here. Notify all resources with roles. I probably better show them a project. Bear with me. Shows better here. Notify. Here we go. So this one was always here. Notify resources on the project with particular roles versus all of them. But now it's all resources within your company. They may not be assigned to the project. It may be, you know, I want all project managers to see when something happens on this, not just the one assigned on the project. You can do that now. So that was a big request, so that went all throughout here as well, to notify people not necessarily associated with that project, but they still might want an update, like the owner of the company, perhaps. So that rounds out my demo of the new V13 features. We're really excited about these, and we can open this up for Q&A.